All right, thank you very much. And Dr. Pierce will come up here and give us the General Statutes for Standards, Curriculum, and Common Core.
Thank you, Senator Suchek and Representative Holloway, our co-chair of the Common Core Study Committee. One of the questions that we as staff members have been asked to address is to help our members to learn what our statutes say about standards and curriculum. So just to try to help clarify that these are two different terms. Standards are what the children, the students, are going to learn and be able to demonstrate that they have learned. Standards are the content. The curriculum, that's what the teachers are going to do. And curriculum includes what textbooks that the school system might choose to use. Our Department of Public Instruction and State Board of Education, we do have a textbook commission that recommends textbooks. As you know, we are moving more towards digital materials, and the State Board of Education and Department of Public Instruction will work together to be able to pick out appropriate text and digital supports to help children to learn the standards. Curriculum also includes your in-class and out-of-class activities. It would include field trips. It would include the homework that children are assigned to do. So when we talk about Common Core state standards, that's not a curriculum. That's a set of standards that is saying this is what a child in kindergarten through the 12th grade is supposed to learn and be able to demonstrate that they have learned this information. Common Core state standards just address English language arts and mathematics in grades K through 12. Some people think of education as like a journey that many of us continue along throughout our life. So if you would like to use that analogy, your standards, like the Common Core state standards, would be like this beautiful guide to Senator Suchek's home territory in Boone. And you look in a travel guide and see all the possible things that you might be able to go and learn about in Watauga County. Maybe the Blue Ridge Parkway, maybe Appalachian State, maybe Blowing Rock. There are many, many things that you would learn about. They're like the standards. But the standards doesn't say how each one of us could get to Watauga County. And that's where your curriculum comes in. Your curriculum is like a map that a teacher is going to figure out where each one of his or her students is beginning, and then how to help that student, or how we as travelers would be able to actually get to Watauga County. And you know it would be very different for Representative Cotham coming from Charlotte of how she's going to get to Watauga County than how it's going to be for Senator Suchek, who's already there. And that's what you have to apply when you're thinking about students. Some of our students might already be there at what the Common Core state standards say they're supposed to learn. So the teacher's job then is to help them learn even more and deeper, or those students are going to get bored. Whereas some of our other students might be way far away from that standard, and those teachers have to think of all of the special supports that student would need in order to have this successful journey of education. Here's an example from the Common Core state standards of an exact standard. And as Dee Atkinson mentioned to you, you all have a copy of the actual Common Core state standards. Members, you got them in a blue, navy blue colored little folder, and then the rest of the members, we copied them for you. Public, we copied them for you. They're also available on our committee website along with all the supporting materials. But an example of the content that we hope that a third grade student in English language arts would be able to demonstrate is that they could describe characters in a story and then explain how these characters' actions would contribute to this sequence of events from the beginning to the middle to the end of the story. So that's the standard. There'd be so many different ways to help each child to be able to describe characters in the story. For some of the children I work with, I might have them create a puppet show. Another group of students, I might have them actually write and reenact a play based on the story that they are reading. Or I've also given you an example, or curricular example, of a worksheet that you might have another group of students do. And you can see how the students would be able to answer different questions. They really think about what these characters are doing, how they are feeling, how if they were a character in the story, they might feel. So it generates a lot of discussion. Those curricular approaches are really up to the teacher, because the teacher knows his or her own students best and where they are along this journey, and so therefore what kind of map they need to help the student to be able to reach that standard. So we just really wanted to help you to realize standards are very different from curriculum, and we are not advocating for any particular curriculum. And DPI and the State Board of Education, they are going to speak even more a little bit later in our meeting to give you more examples of these standards in mathematics and some of the standards for high school students in English language arts and different curricular approaches to help those students meet those standards. So the North Carolina General Statutes do address both standards and curriculum. The General Assembly, and this law dates back to 1955, and it's actually been changed many, many times throughout the course of our different sessions since 1955. And you have a copy of this whole statute. 115C, that's our education chapter. And in this section, section 12, the General Assembly has directed the State Board of Education, given the State Board of Education certain powers. In this particular power, the General Assembly has directed the State Board of Education to develop the academic content standards. So it really is up to our State Board of Education. And as those of you probably know, the members of the State Board of Education are appointed by the governor, but then the General Assembly has to confirm. You just confirmed 6 members this past session to run the State Board of Education. And I believe our new chairman, Bill Cody, of the State Board of Education is here today to talk with you and answer your questions. When the State Board of Education develops these academic content standards, they are also directed, and I quoted this from the law, and like I said, in your materials you have the actual law, the latest version of it. They must involve and survey a representative sample of parents, teachers, and the public to help determine what these academic content standards should be, what they should prioritize, and how useful teachers and principals and parents and the general public think these standards are. So since the 50s, our state has always thought it very important to involve our citizens in helping to determine what is important for our students to learn. And please feel free to look at that statute at your leisure. We also have a lot of this particular statute in your materials. I believe it's 12 pages long. The General Assembly, through the years, has directed the State Board of Education and the Department of Public Instruction to add certain components to the curriculum. Remember, that's what teachers are teaching, helping students to learn those standards. Just recently, I believe it was in the 2012 session, you might remember the General Assembly added to Chapter 115C-81 saying that all high school students should be able to demonstrate competencies in CPR. That was one of those curricular approaches that the General Assembly thought was important, and so added to this very long statute. In 2012, you added a lot more information about what should be learned in social studies with the founding principles and what kind of curricular materials you felt were important. So our basic curriculum, the General Assembly has directed the State Board of Education to make sure that all of these different areas that you see, the arts, communication skills, physical education, personal health and safety, mathematics, media, computer skills, science, second language, social studies, and vocational technical education. So our curriculum does have all of these components for our students in our traditional and public charter schools to learn about. So there really is this state and local relationship that has been in our statutes, and the State Board of Education has policies to reflect those statutes, that we have content standards that the State Board of Education and the General Assembly through statutory changes has set the parameters of, as well as this general curriculum I just showed you from 115C-81. But then other parts of the statute say local boards of education, you're really in charge of working with your superintendents and your teachers and your parents and your public back home, because you know your folks back home, to figure out what are those curricular approaches to be able to meet those content standards. We do have one place in the statute, and this particular change came in 2011 through Senate Bill 479, that added a direction to the State Board of Education to continue to participate in the development of the Common Core standards. So Common Core standards are actually named one place in our statutes, and that's just been since 2011. And this part of the statute is where the General Assembly has told the State Board of Education what testing should happen for our children in traditional and charter public schools. So you can see I've included that actual statute for you in your materials too. Finally, in this last session, in the budget, which is Session Law 2013-360, the General Assembly did prohibit the State Board of Education from purchasing any assessments that are aligned with the Common Core state standards. And the State Board of Education will have to come and present and talk and try to get a bill passed or talk to the budget writers if they do feel that it's the appropriate thing to purchase national assessments to assess our children as they are beginning to learn those content standards in the Common Core state standards. So with that, Senator Suchek, I've concluded our presentation.